like if I'm using this Promethean board to show educational material, is this be Promethean board to detect thoughts? Anyone have a lawyer that's looked at it?
Oh no, we just bought some and they took the taxes.
They didn't take the taxes off. What's that?
I think you can pull the opinion, I think they kind of ruled in on, stuff that teacher would use in her class. I would say document cameras, projectors, TVs. I would say that makes the cut, but it does say some things that it doesn't count, like cameras for security, that's not used by a teacher for a lesson.
Yeah, so that whole thing is here, that's kind of been our, if they're using it to show, how far does it go? Then it's the question, does it include your internet? Does you use it to pull that stuff up? I mean, does it include your what?
Does it include door access?
I would say no door access. Because doesn't have anything to do with educational materials. It doesn't help you supply, it helps you protect kids. It doesn't help you supply educational materials. So, I mean, you could go down a wormhole here, and there could be a lot of things.
Your entire network.
Yeah.
Is delivering that content.
But most of us are gonna use E-rate to do our network anyway, so in that case, do they charge taxes when you do it?
Yes.
So they charge taxes, so yeah, it can save you on your 20% or 30% or whatever you do. Anybody else have opinion on that? Yeah, you can go deep. And so, the one thing you do need to have is you need to have that certificate of exemption. And again, this, came from a link there on the APSRC website that basically you fill out and you send to your vendor so that they know that you are tax exempt. I have some vendors that are really good about remembering that. I have some vendors that are not, and I have to remind them every time. I forget sometimes. I'll get a quote and then I'll actually go to pay it, and when I go to pay it is when I remember, oh yeah, I was supposed to tell them not to do sales tax. But I for sure do it on our Chromebooks, and our teacher MacBooks are the two things I use, because both of those are definitely used to, I can justify that very easily. Start going down a rabbit hole, and start talking about your wiring, your network equipment, it's a little harder to justify, but I mean, you can. So that would be something I would say talk to them.
Internal fiber?
I think I could write a justification, or ChatGPT could write a justification. Saying that stuff supplies educational materials. Okay, any other thoughts or questions? I don't want to spend a lot of time on that one, but yeah, I'd say if you have questions, see your lawyer. Oh, and then they have, of course, the government, they always have instructions for how to fill out the complicated. So again, this will all be on our website, you can pull it up later. Okay, this is another one, not a lot to do, not a lot for us to do, it's just something we need to know. It's Act 510. It's basically saying that school district's policies and guidelines that are related to cybersecurity incidents and cyber attacks are not rules under the APA. I don't know what that means, but they're not subject to the Arkansas FOIA and are not subject to AELC review. So if you have plans, guidelines, policies, they are not FOIA-able related to cybersecurity. The other thing is meetings. Now, me and Jeff were talking about this in the elevator just a little bit ago, and that I thought that meant meetings at the school. But really, if you read the law and the wording of the law, it said it exempts the meetings of the Joint Committee or Advanced Communications and Information Technology that are related to a cybersecurity incident involving or a cyber attack on a state or school district from the FOIA's open meeting requirements, and clarifies that all information discussed in those meetings is confidential. So that I don't know. Does that, if you're having a meeting with your school board after a cybersecurity attack, does that mean that it can be a closed meeting? Thoughts?
Yes.
Well,
Chris,
I think they changed that.
Yes.
About why this came about?
Yes. We probably all saw it. This is the heart of this one, according to people that have told me. So again, I'm not the expert on it, but what I have heard about this is you need to be able to, behind closed doors, have conversations to mitigate, and you cannot have it public, because taking it public is a risk to make things worse. Mm-hmm. And you also cannot it helps protect things from going public of your strategies. So you don't want the world to know the things that you're trying to do to protect, because that just leaves for an open door.
So will our cybersecurity policy that we talk about later in one of the other 500 acts, I can't remember what the number is, will it be exempt from FOIA? Will we be able to keep that off of our website?
I don't know about policies. I'm thinking more about the actual, what's the word?
I would say your
The things you
response,
gotta
the
do.
detail.
Operation response?
Yes, there's a word for the things you gotta do. It's that stuff, cause you do not want the things you gotta do published, because then they will know how to get around and still get you.
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
I notice it says Arkansas FOIA, so it's for the state. Is there a national FOIA as well? Or is it just every state has their own?
That's a good question. Who's smarter than me and has that?
I don't know as far as, they're all state laws, so some places call it Sunshine Acts and stuff like that. There is some federal reporting, but they're all basically their own animal per state and this kind of stuff.
I've wondered the same thing. I didn't know. So basically, there's something similar in every state. In Arkansas, we call it FOIA. Any other thoughts or things on this one? Hopefully, we never have to worry about it. Let's go with that. All right, BJ's here. Everybody look at BJ. BJ is the kind of, he's spearheaded a lot of stuff with them. Him and Brian, the two guys sitting over there next to each other. And about as far as what we have to do to get ready for this, which is in June, right? We have to have this done by June 2024.
By June, you have to be able to produce a list for a parent, I believe.
So it's Act 754. You have to maintain a list of vendors. I thought, is Ray here? So Ray didn't make it. Okay.
Raise the real
Yeah, Ray is an expert on what this all entails. BJ is kind of the expert on the actual work involved. So here's the things you have to do. You have to, those main things. You have to maintain a list of vendors that student data is shared with. And there's things you have to have with that list, like what data they're using, how they're using it. Those contract agreements with those vendors have to meet certain standards. And then you have to have some sort of incident response written into that contract, and the ability to terminate that contract if they don't follow it, basically. Am I missing anything, BJ, on that?
No, I mean, everybody needs to go read 754, just sit down and read it. It takes some time. It's quite detailed in what the vendor has to do and what the districts have to do regarding digital resources and what are considered digital resources.
Does anyone have an answer on using Google as an authentication piece? We've asked that a few times.
Does that count?
Yeah, does that count? I'm sending them information. It is personally identifiable because it's probably their first and last name or initials or something. That's the only thing I haven't got a clear answer on.
I've thought the exact same thing, that is that if whoever it is seeing my kids' first and last names, and a lot of them are seeing that you're graduating, what can you do first, last, and your graduation, which we should probably rethink, that I would need to do an agreement.
It's also sending profile picture too, so.
Oh, that's true, profile pictures. I want to deal with the ones, and this is BJ, we had it was a lively discussion yesterday during our cybersecurity day about this act. We spent, the whole we went over the 45 minutes, but, Ray and BJ talked. And I think BJ has a good strategy, and that is hit the ones that are the most important first, the ones that are getting the most data, and then kind of work your way down that list. And to me, Ben, those are on my list to put it more towards the bottom. Any other questions or thoughts on this one?
Yes, sir. You said that we had till June. Is that just a list of vendors that we're using that, or we have to have the signed data agreements by them?
To sign agreements by
I think it's the agreement.
You have to have agreements.
by
But you
June.
have to be able to produce the list of vendors that you use. You also have to be able to provide any parent that asks the privacy agreement with that vendor. So you need to have those already ready to go. And then it also requires that you update that list at the beginning and midpoint of the year.
Yeah, to update it twice a year.
So is this the one with the access for learning and stuff?
Yes. Yeah, and that was the next thing.
Hey Jared, I was gonna throw in.
Jeff, yeah.
In 754, there's a differentiation between service contract providers and then service on-demand providers, and with some separate things you have to do. both of those lists updated at the beginning and midpoint and all those kinds of things, but I know the on-demand provider is a list that used by the district or an employee, so it starts to bring in any of those things that teachers might be using in their classrooms, with kind of the extra wrinkle of not only that list, but then if the parent asks about that vendor's kind of policies on privacy, you have to be able to assist the parent in navigating to that vendor's policy. So there's an extra little layer there.
I feel like of all these laws, this is the one that's gonna require the most work.
Yes.
This is gonna require a lot of work.
Does this one have the breach requirement in it too, as far as notifying about breaches?
I think it is.
I think it
We
does.
have so many days.
And I'll just mention that, yesterday I got an email from, one of our curriculum people about MIMBE.
Yep, me too.
And they were breached at the end of September, and they're just now notifying that
Which one?
Minbeam. I got the same
And, it
notification.
said first name, last name, email address, but, looking through their privacy agreement, it looks like they actually did get a little bit more information than that, like, birth year and things. And so does that mean that now we also have to report,
Third party.
because they were breached and our data might be with them, we now also have to report on that other law on reporting to legislative audit, within that 5-day period?
How much the legislative audit after our lectures, and I think you do. From what legislative audit, we went from the one-liner thing to the 16 pages, and you need to read the technology stuff from legislative audit.
Chrissy's shaking her head, yes. If one of your third party vendors has a breach, you have to.
They were pretty adamant about it.
The only thing that you do not have to report is if it's a service that the department's actually responsible for. Like when we had the school dude one, that's their responsibility to report it and not yours. But if it's your contract with the vendor and they have the breach, then yes,
Like,
it's yours.
I was talking to John Ashworth with Virtual Arkansas. Virtual Arkansas kind of is a state, like would that be considered one that the state would have to, if like they had some sort of breach? I think it's. Virtual Arkansas is kind of a state entity and they have an agreement with the state. They get their data straight from Trian.
It's not something that you push to them, so
Yeah.
they would probably be reporting it for you. She would report it if she got breached, because she lives in that law too.
Yeah, I talked to Virtual Arkansas lady yesterday.
She's right there.
She's back in.
I'm right here.
And she told me that, they were looking at how to take care of their stuff.
Yeah, me and John were having a discussion today about, how does that affect you and our relationship, and it really was kind of like, we don't know, but we'll figure it out.
Well, and like the
Yeah, so we
MIMBE,
have an agreement with Trian, so the data is pulled directly from Trian. We have an agreement with the Department of Ed from Trian, so that data is directly pulled from Trian to our SIS. And so
So if something happened with
something
them,
happened and that data got breached between Trian and the SIS, it would be the same if the data was breached between Trian and eSchool. It's the same type of thing. If it got breached between eSchool and your system, it's the same type of connection.
So it's like the department owns that connection, or
Do what?
like the department owns that connection?
Yes.
So they would be the one reporting
yeah,
it.
that would
Yeah.
be the department's responsibility, not ours.
Yeah.
If it's a third party that we use as a school, that's not tied to the state in any way, then it's our responsibility to report.
Right, but anyway, I had a question about local college, and as they do virtual learning through a local college, and I never got into it, I don't know, I guess I'm gonna have to call. I never, so, We're gonna be audited on this type of stuff, or is it more gonna be like if a parent shows up and looks at it? Is there any point someone's gonna say, okay, let me see it?
I think probably, if I'm a legislative auditor,
It's an audit finding.
probably gonna go on the state required information page.
They said it would be an audit finding, is in that audit thing, they asked whether they could not do it on the.
It specifically said you didn't have to put this on your website.
Yeah, no, this is.
You don't have to put this on your website.
Like the
You
heart
just
of
have to
this was
have
for
it
parents,
available to a
honestly.
parent.
Like the heart of the law
Yeah, it's-
was to
yeah.
make sure parents were informed
Mhm.
on what data their student has is being pushed out from the school district, and you're now being responsible to be accountable for where you're sending that data And they have the right to come and ask you for that, and you have to produce it.
So potentially we have a little bit further than June.
Well, once parents find out, they're gonna be asking.
And this is one thing that Ray said yesterday, parents can already ask for that. You don't have to supply it because it's for you. Like, they could ask right now, they can do a FOIA request and ask for everything that this they have to supply it now. So it's not really changing anything, it's just making a law,
So they
basically
know.
putting some structure around what we already have. Because of that, they're gonna know that you have to.
Just, C's is pulling their information straight from eSchool, right?
I have no idea.
Does anybody know?
Who's pulling it?
C's. Travis says he
Sped,
thinks
I
that
would
they're
say everybody needs
Special
to use
ed.
C's.
Special ed, I think
Well, they can push it.
Yeah.
Are you pushing
Or
it?
they get it from Triumph.
Oh, yeah, so they're
I was
probably,
gonna say, I think they're pulling it straight from there.
yeah.
We're not, we don't do any type of data standardization to see, so I'm assuming we're pulling through.
Yeah.
The good thing about this is that it's not like they just gave this and said, okay, do it, and then we don't have any way to do it. We do have Access for Learning, and BJ's done a lot of work on that. You can do, like, he is getting his agreements lined up in there, signed, put into the portal, and that's a place you can send parents to, and they can look at all the different agreements, and it shows exactly what data each vendor is using. The best thing about it is that if they sign this agreement in Access for Learning with Exhibit E, so you can see with Exhibit in there, that means that they have said that other schools in Arkansas can piggyback off that same contract. So BJ has done a lot of work, so has Brian, of getting these contracts, and most of them, I would assume, do most of them have Exhibit E?
The majority of the vendors want to sign Exhibit E because they don't wanna have.
They don't wanna do it 150 times, they wanna do it once.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's standard terms, so
And
when
most
a
of
parent
them-
reads this, that they can get confident that, you know, unless it's a slightly modified state version or something, that it says basically the same thing, and it has a table of what data does this vendor collect, first name, last name, does it have an app username, an app password, those kinds of things. And those are just check boxes that the vendor will check off as to what they have, and it has a page about, disposition of data. So after you're no longer contracted with them or whatever, you can say that, you know, I want you to sign that page as well and do, you know, within 90 days, you need to destroy all data that's, could be pointed to a student.
So if you're like me, and you're a procrastinator, it can actually help you a little bit, because they're doing a lot of the legwork and getting these things. Now, the thing is, not all of the vendors that my school uses are gonna be the same as his. There's gonna be some that I'm gonna have to do some legwork on, or hopefully other people have. Yes, John?
So, we brought up this, Tuesday, was that the contract that like BJ has this contract, well, it has an expiration date on it. So if I'm a procrastinator and I'm holding off on doing it, if his contract expires in June and I sign my Exhibit E in May, well, that means that my contract now is 1 month.
Yeah.
So,
They're generally,
Dang it, John,
standard
why you gonna
terms,
ruin
the
it?
standard terms is 3 years.
yeah, but I'm
Now,
just,
they can change it in the contract as part of.
I was just in general speak, I was like, we gotta be careful, cause you can think, oh, well, I've signed this thing, now I don't have to do any more with it, but it still has an expiration date of whatever the original contract was.
And that's part of having to review those, we review them twice a year, right? Update twice a year. Yes.
I actually been playing off of his because I didn't know who to contact, so I've been looking up his to contact companies. And one of them said that they've already signed doing Exhibit E. But under the Exhibit E, the one he's pointing to, it's got Greenbrier. And it says you also have to have a separate data agreement with the company. But there is a spot where another LEA can hop on. Is that gonna be sufficient? If it says
But
Greenbrier School.
That's how the Exhibit E works. The top of it will say, this agreement is between the vendor and this school district, whoever signed the originating agreement. And then the bottom is for the subscribing LEA or district.
So I just
Say,
need that
okay,
one little
yes,
sheet.
you just have to
Probably.
sign that one page, and then if you're using Access for Learning, you can say, I have a new agreement, I'm a subscriber, and then you upload your Exhibit E.
And it also has, that same page has a where to send it. Now, Access for Learning will send it to that email address as you sign it, so that they have a copy of it, but you can also email it to them
I just wanna make sure, cause it said Greenbrier, I'm like.
Yeah, it's just saying that there's an agreement between the vendor and Greenbrier, and then that they're offering it to other school districts in Arkansas. Send a copy to this email address, and then you do your school part, and then you put in who your district representative is, so that might be somebody else that, you know, is over that program, and then, you put it in your
We're gonna, I know we probably need to move on, we're gonna try to do another
Zoom
session
meeting in
just
December.
on 754 and just on how to use the A4L site.
That'll be in December, and then we're talking about doing maybe like a 2 or 3 hour, pre-conference. We have Telar has a conference in February. We have a pre-conference day, so we're talking about like scheduling a block where we can go over this and maybe actually do like a work day type thing. Or if you wanna sit in there with other people and work on it at the same time, you know, we think that would be beneficial for everyone. So we'll do that. Jeff, do you have something?
Just a couple quick things. This is a perfect group, and those meetings would be perfect to talk about kind of coming up with a consensus on how we want to approach this, because there's some flexibility from district to district on what you upload, whether you upload just the Exhibit E or the entire originator's agreement and the third part of Exhibit E, and just things to discuss. But just hypothetically, if I'm a district piggybacking on, and I've only filled out half of a page, which is great for efficiency, but if I go ahead and upload the entire contract, then I still can see all the agreements and all the checkboxes that the originator has agreed to with the vendors. That could be helpful, but it helps the most if we're all kind of doing it in a similar way. So at these meetings, just to kind of hash out what's the most efficient way for the group to help itself. Another thing is Access for Learning is something that was paid for all the districts by the state. And at this point, I'm the contact if you need access. So I'll be able to give emails or whatever else. So if you need access to the site, I can help you with that before any of those meetings happen. And then I know Ray has pointed out before that site is great at the contract part and also creating that list that you could share the URL and just instantly have the list that was required under 754. But there are districts that don't want to go that route, which is totally fine. This is completely optional. But just know that if you're interested in just the agreement, if you just want to download the Arkansas agreement and use that independently on your own as you talk to vendors, that's totally fine also. And we've, at Exhibit G, I think it is, have linked a couple of Arkansas laws to make sure that that particular PDF is Arkansas specific. So any of those things of interest, just email, I'll try to help as I
So
can.
if you don't wanna use Funds for Learning, you can pull those contracts, sign Exhibit E, put them in a Google Drive and do it, roll your own. And then my question would be, if you send a parent to that and all you signed and uploaded is Exhibit E and they click on it, is all it's gonna show is Exhibit E?
If they download the one thing and then cut out the one page and upload that back, yes. So it seems like uploading everything would be, yeah, no.
Get the whole contract, sign Exhibit E.
It would save you from having to go answer the question when they inevitably come back.
Yeah, well, actually, when you do the subscriber agreement,
Is it just
it puts in the exhibit, it puts in agreement. Like if you show the portal, and use that page for your parents or whatever, it shows agreement, which is the full agreement. And then it also shows exhibit.
Oh, it has both?
And then you click that and it's just your page.
So if that's the case, it might be easier just to upload if we all just.
Well, and that's, Ray and I are trying to create a demo site so we can see what it looks like on that side. That's really helpful to know. So just all those kind of ins and outs are.
Most national vendors have seen this agreement before.
Yeah, it's not new to them.
Arkansas is kind of catching up with the East Coast and Texas, and I mean, so this isn't brand new to the legal teams at Clever and all these other
You start looking at vendors in there, they're all there.
So yeah, when you log, you have to log in to be able to do the national search or even the state search. So you can do the national search for whatever product it is, Clever, Boom Cards, whatever, and you can see if they've signed maybe in California or Illinois or something. So then you kind of know, okay, they'll sign DPAs, right? So let's go ahead and go through with this, and it probably will not be a hard process. So.
When we have our Zoom meeting, when we have, I mean, definitely these two and Jeff, whoever else wants to be involved, we'll try to get them involved. Because I think this is, it's a big topic, and like I said, this is, of all these, this is probably gonna be the most work. Maybe cybersecurity might be close, we'll see, but I think most of that's being done by other people, and we just have to follow the rules. Okay. All right, any other questions or discussions on that?
Just real quick about making sure to know that your curriculum teams sign contracts normally in the summer. So this would be a great opportunity to get them ahead of the game, and so when they go to sign these new contracts,
Just in
to
time.
Ingenuity, Clever, whoever, what we're doing is we're adding the NDPA on top of their contracts. We do our contracts annually. So just kind of get that, and remember that your districts usually sign contracts in the summer. So kind of be ahead of that. So that they're not having to sign a contract and then a month later go, oh, well, I need you to sign this stuff.
And that's the other thing, is you're gonna have to, our district doesn't have a process for contracts that involve student data, and we need one. So after your thing yesterday, I emailed my curriculum director, and we have a meeting next week. We're gonna sit down, we're gonna figure it out. But yeah, you're gonna have to kind of have a process for how you handle third-party vendor, whatever you call that sign-up process and dealing with those contracts. So, any other discussion? You can't, yeah, you're just kind of done with this one. He's at the door just listening. Oh, they're done, all right, okay.
Chair, I had a
Yes.
question
Uh-huh.
about multi-year contracts. When you have multi-year contracts with a vendor, will this, how does it work with that?
I think so, because it's 3 years is standard, right? 3-year
Standard.
contract.
Well, this is
For
the
the-
data agreement,
the data
but if you're talking about a contract that you already have in place.
You're talking about like paying for and how.
Go read the Act 754, because I believe the way it's worded is any new contract after June 1 of 2024 has to.
New or renewed?
Renewed.
Yeah.
So
But
when
if you don't renew until, November of 2024, then you don't have to go get a new contract right now, right?
Right, new or
It would
renewed?
just be when you renew.
I don't think it would hurt.
No, but I mean, you could go get a data agreement in place.
Yeah, and I mean, it's literally, you go in and you find the privacy contact for that company. It's if they've signed another DPA in another state, it's in that agreement on that Exhibit E for that state. And you just email them and send them a link to the Arkansas Alliance page and say, nobody in Arkansas has executed a DPA with you guys. I would like to start that process, and if we can do an Exhibit E, that'd be great. And that kicks it off.
We really appreciate DJ and Brian for their work, because it saves us work. Yes, thank you. We ended up going down a rabbit hole. We had a Zoom meeting, when was that, in October? Yeah, tell her, we started having like Zoom meetings, we don't have them every month, but we have them kind of key times throughout the year, and we kind of went down a rabbit hole with this. And I didn't know anything about it, so, I left the meeting a little scared, but then the more I read into it, I was like, oh, it's not as big a deal as I thought it would be. But we appreciate their work on that. Anything else on this one before we move on? Oh, there we go. With Exhibit E, you can take back, without, you can't. Like they said, they probably want to do Exhibit E because they don't want to have to do the same work, 200 and some times. All right, Cybersecurity and Technology Resources Policy, Act 504. So the resource policy is basically don't bother politicians. School resources. I mean, if you really want to wrap it up in a short sentence, that's what, don't bother them. You can't lobby them unless you're, a licensed lobbyist. But yeah, don't use your school stuff to bother these politicians. That includes, I would guess, your internet, your device, and for sure your email, because they can track that really easy. If you're emailing them with your school email, they know. They may not know that you were sitting on the school Wi-Fi emailing with your personal, but they're gonna know if you're using your school email address. It also has a training, there's a cybersecurity policy as well. It's made by ADE, approved by the State Cybersecurity Office. It's created, updated, and submitted by October of even years, so that means next October 2024. There is a requirement of yearly training and development of disciplinary actions for each policy. So that part's gonna be on us, I would assume. Is that a per district thing, or how's that gonna work?
That's by district.
Right.
Okay, so everything else is being created by ADE. What's on us is the disciplinary policy. We, as a school district, have already took that resources policy and put it in our policy. We did that at our last school board meeting, we voted it in. And so that's really all we had to do. Now I have to go and do training. We haven't figured out how we're gonna do that yet. They provide a PowerPoint for training. I mean, it's not hard. It's like 4 or 5 slides.
It's a study.
Yeah, it's not much. It doesn't take much. I do a training at the beginning of the year. I go to every school and we do our data, privacy and security training that, whatever policy number that is in our policy, 7.19 or 7.28, I don't remember. But we have a policy, everybody has one, about you have to do That's the one that says that you're the data security officer, right? Or whatever that is, you know, from a long time ago. Anyway, you're supposed to do training, so I do it every year. I do cybersecurity training, and then I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna roll it into that. It's not a whole lot.
There's a lot of technology for them that do not realize they're doing point of that.
Yeah. But I can't remember what was that.
Like
That
an
acronym.
appointment, or is it like?
It's supposed to be in writing.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have a badge?
No, unfortunately. You'd be cool for it.
Mhm.
Cybersecurity policy. You guys wanna talk on that?
Well, there's not a lot to say right now because it's just being developed and not due until October. Obviously, we wouldn't give it to you in September, but I mean, that's still in draft form with DIS, and then we're gonna be in communication. Just the main thing, you've done a great job highlighting this, is that in that act, there are two separate policies that are talked about. The technology resources policy is effective now, and the cybersecurity policy, which hasn't been given to you yet, is not due until October, with training and consequences on it for both. The other thing, you mentioned already, but just the training that we provided in that commissioner's memo that goes along with the technology resources policy is not required for you to use. So you are required to use the policy, but not the training. If you have another way to communicate it, it's totally fine.
I'm gonna go back in, for some reason I didn't do it.
Right, yeah.
But I thought that link was actually to the commissioner's memo that you wrote, but it's not. I'm gonna change that. And this link will go to that commissioner's memo because this is just to the act itself, but that memo has more resources on it. So I'll link to the memo, and the memo has a link to the actual act, so I'll change this. I'm assuming that when that comes out, there will be some legwork on our end to meet the requirements of that policy, but we don't wanna speculate, but I would assume there's gonna be some, multi-factor authentication, patching, some of that type of stuff.
We will be communicating when we have details, I promise. You'll get tired of hearing from us.
Basically things you should already be doing that are gonna be put in the policy.
But Gary did mention that the cybersecurity thing, the control, the 6 base ones.
Yeah.
You can almost guarantee those are the 6 that you have. For some of you, it's no big deal. I was talking to a gal in one of my pre-workshops, and her boss won't let her do MFA, and they won't let her do, they have one, like their teachers still have admin rights, and they'll let her, you know what I mean? So for some of you, it's like, okay, it's gonna be like this, but for some of you, if you had to do MFA along with changing privileges, along with changing, I can't remember all the stuff that she was saying.
All at one time.
All at one time would be a lot to try to do, and so hopefully a draft will come out soon. So that y'all can at least
Did we ever decide if
What
it's
you're trying to
just
do,
staff
754.
or is it staff and staff?
That's important, that's a
Chris,
really important
did we
piece, so
decide
like
this
that
was
draft,
just
that was
staff
the
or
draft
staff
policy,
and
might
student?
better get that 754.
Did we decide we didn't?
Get it going, get those conversations
Okay.
kind of to a certain point, because you know the
Okay.
other pieces.
I just
all
knew
that.
that was a question at one time.
Yes, sir.
Just, we've had some great questions come in since that commissioner's memo went out. One is, does that policy apply to students and staff, or just staff? Because some places in that law it says staff shall not, and then other places it's a little bit more vague. And I've got an appointment with our legal team to get an opinion on that, and I haven't heard back yet. The other question that came in, I think yesterday, one of the school board, they took it to their school board to get approved, and the school board member said, I'm an elected official, can you not email me about school things on your school computer since I'm an elected official? And
There's some wording in there that says political opinions.
Yeah,
That's the wording, political opinions.
or lobbying to, but yeah, there's gray
They
area.
say something about unless they ask for it.
Unless they ask for it, and so the school, and it also says
Right.
not related to your job function. If you're a teacher talking to a school board member,
Right.
that's job function related.
Right.
So I think that you can work around that.
Oh, yeah. Just know that there's some of those things to think through, for sure.
Yeah, there's always, when one of these things, they think, we wrote this law, it's great, but then there's always, we didn't think about that, we didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Any other questions or thoughts about this? I would say, like Ray is saying, if you don't have those 6 things, I would for sure say MFA is coming, like you're gonna have to have MFA. Not only for this, but for another one we're gonna talk about later, the insurance one. There's gonna be requirements for that, was not insurance, but response program, the self-funded response program, which is another one we're gonna talk about. There's gonna be, I would assume that a lot of those are gonna be the same requirements what we're gonna see from the
Same
cybersecurity
standard.
policies, and what we're gonna see from that one, the standards and that we should be following, so.
And I'm not sure what David Cole said, but those security best practices that they posed as County Hall's best guiding document at this time, that will be updated, or should be, I anticipate it will be, that's a discussion to align with that 504 recommendation, so there's consistency across. So you're not trying to, right now, it actually references its controls, and its controls, which isn't a big deal, but it is great. There should be consistent, once it's set, then legislative audit should understand what the bar is, and they should align, so you're not trying to meet multiple standards, and there's a standard that you're trying to meet. Still,
One target, still.
multiple, that's how it should be, that's what everybody wants that, David wants that, Kerry wants that, Joe wants that, everybody wants that.
I mean, I don't know, me personally,
We want it.
yeah, we wanna do these things, but there's pushback. Now we have something to stand behind, to help, to say we have to do it. It's not me being an internet Nazi, it is.
It's good, and it is absolutely necessary and critical, because we are in a world that's ridiculous right now.
And Gary and them were very receptive yesterday. They wanted to look at it from our aspect. Because they don't walk in our shoes.
Now, is this just apply to schools, or does it also apply to other schools? Does it apply to all states?
Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just that y'all's will be provided by ADP.
Yeah, okay, that, yes. Okay. Oh, I did link to the commissioner's memo. Okay, so this one, I feel like these two, I put them together because I feel like they tied it to each other, because there's gonna be things that come out from this that go along with the other one. So Act 846, create the Arkansas Self-Funded Cyber Response Program, basically provides coverage for damages and losses by cyber attack. We must participate. I know at one point they were talking about there was like, it was optional, I think. Was there ever talk about that?
Not for schools.
Not for
no.
schools, it was always.
Other people have options, but y'all don't.
Yeah, other ones can, higher ed can opt in. There's cyber tech definitions, minimum cybersecurity criteria, procedures for responding after cyber, it's all that's being developed. But we will all be a part of this, we will all pay in, we haven't decided how to, like, they don't know how the money's gonna get paid.
Oh, they know how, it's already started, but we don't know how. They didn't tell us what that formula was. But you've already started, it comes out of your money. You're not actually writing a check, you get that much less at the end of the year.
This is kind of the foundation.
Is it coming out of like foundation building majors?
School fund.
The public school fund?
But in general, it's counties are gonna contribute no more than 300,000, cities no more than 300,000, and all districts no more than 300,000. And then like Chrissy's saying, how the district side is broken up is the question mark. I'm still trying to.
But it is a formula, not everybody's contributing the exact same
That's what I
amount.
was gonna ask too, am I doing the same as Springfield?
But even equally, it's pretty nominal versus any kind of cyber insurance.
Yes.
It's very nominal.
When we were discussing this last summer, they said to expect an average of $1,500. So, I mean, it really is a very small amount. Thinking of our school districts, the size is an average.
But it's also not, we're not getting a whole lot.
Right.
$100,000 is not gonna, it's not gonna fix, it's not gonna be enough probably, depending on the school district, depending on the
Right.
attack, a lot of factors.
Yeah.
But,
Yes, and this is a bring you to function insurance. This is not cover your butt because what just happened insurance. If you need to get some EDR or you need to do some scans, we've got contracts that should be in place that we can use and define some things are gonna be in place that will make it easier for us to respond. But it will also, if it gets up to $100,000, that money's there and you can use it. You don't have to pull it out of your pocket to use it, so.
I think EDR is probably gonna be a big a big topic. How big, how much?
Mhm.
I would say that we're gonna have to have some. Yeah, what all, yeah, is it everybody, is it specific users, is it the users that have access to, e-finance only, or is it the ones that have PII data, which is all teachers, everybody pretty much, lots of questions there, but I feel like that the ER is gonna be a big topic of discussion. Anybody got any questions or thoughts on this one? 15 minutes left? Are we done? Is that? We're done, that's all of them. I thought that we would be in here anymore. Anybody have any questions or any thoughts now?
So on this particular one, there is a set of standards that kind of will go in with the 504 that you're gonna have to start doing. And if you're not doing them, it's gonna the money will be lessen depending on where you are in your maturity and what you're doing. So, one really neat thing that they're actually doing is Jeff is actually involved in those standards and them discussing them, and they're actually letting some of the schools give feedback. So we're not just completely silent on what's going on with this. So I'm really excited that we may actually have a voice and an opinion.
Yeah,
Something that's coming at us.
Slapped down on us.
Yes.
We could have some discussion on it. We appreciate that. Any other thoughts or opinions or questions on any of these laws? I will post this on our website. It's telr.ar.org. In fact, the mayor would do that. Under resources. And it's got all the links in it. So if you want to take this home or pull it up when you're at home and look at the different acts and the things that go on with them. Well, I've got you captive for just a second. I do want to talk about TELR for just a second. So TELR is a constituent group of AAEA, and we would love to have you as members. Right now, we're doing those Zooms on a monthly basis. Right now, we're sending those out to the sysadmin list. We're inviting everybody. It won't be that way forever. We will. All the other constituent groups have Zooms through AAEA, and they send it out through the AAA members list. They don't send it out to everybody. We want you to get involved. Most of your most of your principals and other administrators are members of AAEA already, and they are members of the constituent groups that apply to them, whether it's the middle school principal group, elementary school principal group, superintendent's group, curriculum coordinators group. There's all these different constituent groups under AAEA. Now we have one for technology directors, technology leaders. We want you to be a member. The ASBMA, I'm a member of that one, so you can be a member of multiple. You just check the box when you fill it out. You get one for free, the one that comes with your membership. So when you sign up for AAEA, you will check the box next to TELR. You can check the box next to other ones, and I think it's an extra $25. But I wanted to say that the ASBMA, which is the maintenance guys, the guys who fix toilets, they have 250 members, and we have 45. You can't tell me that the guys who fix toilets, I'm one of them, are more professional, because these are professional, this is a professional organization, right? Those guys are not more professional than us. We need to get members.
And this has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Daryl with the salary survey, and when we just started talking to Coastal about having something in the state of Arkansas. So just getting TELR where it is now and having these resources are already done a lot. But it's been a process, and we're all really proud of what we're doing and what we're
Ask your federal programs person, they will probably pay what entitlement is that? They use for that. If you don't know what title money is, come to our thing tomorrow on school funding. Because we have a class tomorrow on school funding. We're gonna talk about the foundation funding, and we're gonna talk about the matrix. We're gonna talk about all the different title money. Knowing where your money comes from is important. And Mike Burton's from AAEA is gonna be here, and he's gonna talk about that stuff. But
know what grants are out there that the state is giving the money for.
yeah.
So, I mean.
And that is something that AAA will give you. They will now. Chris Knight jokes that they're a spam company that throws a big party in June because they will send you lots of emails. They will send emails on this grant is available now. This grant is available now. But anyway, I want to say we want you to be a member. If you have questions, please come see me, BJ, or who else is there? Sam. We're all on the board. But anybody that you know that's involved with TELR can give you those answers. We appreciate you. I appreciate what Jeff and Christie, Jeff's hiding there back. Appreciate Jeff, and Ray, and Christie, and DJ and Brian for being here, and the work that they've done on all these things we talked about. Have a good conference.